Hey everyone, Alex back again with another video. Jumping in on a vinyl tag this time. It's the 80s vinyl tag. This was started by Crackin Vinyl, who, believe it or not, is a channel I've been following for quite some time. Probably think he was one of the earliest channels I discovered here in the VC. So yeah, he's jumped on, he's done an 80s tag, so let's get into it because there's 20 questions and I don't want to waste too much time here. So question one was, what's your favorite 80s music video? Now I've tried to avoid the obvious one here with like Aha's video for Take On Me or Thriller by Michael Jackson, probably the two that are my favorites. But one that did pop into my head straight away was the video for Need You Tonight by NXS. Really good video for that single there. Obviously it wasn't around at the time the single came out, but I have seen the music video and do really enjoy it. So yeah, that is my answer for that one. Next question was an album released in 1983. I don't think I had too much from that year, but I managed to find one, and maybe my favorite album from that year and my favorite album from this band, as well as my introduction to this band. That's Genesis, by Genesis, also known as Shapes. Always loved this album, from the opening track Mama, That's All, Home by the Sea, and second Home by the Sea, Illegal Alien, Taking It All Too Hard, you know, just a classic album from them, one that I really enjoy. So always come back to that 80s album. Had to show that one. Next one was a 12-inch, it said 12-inch record, but I'm going to assume this to be 12-inch single, and again don't have anywhere near as many 12-inch singles as I used to have, but I picked out one that oddly enough is from my favorite 80s album. This is Poison Arrow by ABC, obviously off the Lexicon of Love album. Yeah, one of my favorite 80s albums, so I had to give that an inclusion in this video. Next question was a one-hit wonder. I had a couple going through my mind, but one that I wanted to show, which is also one of my favorite 80s tracks as well, is Break My Stride from Matthew Wilder. I don't think he had any other success outside of this single, so that's why I'm calling it a one-hit wonder. There were a couple of others I could have gone with, but because that's one of my favourite songs from the time period, I had to go with that one. Next one is show a favourite 80s artist. For me, it wouldn't have been one of my videos if I didn't show a bit of 80s soul. And this artist was also a producer in the 80s as well. This is Kashif, this is Send Me Your Love, his second album from 1984. He has worked with people like Melvin Moore, George Benson, produced all his own stuff as well. But yeah, he's one of my favourite artists from the 80s, so of course I had to give him a mention here. If you're not familiar, definitely check him out. If you like Luther Vandross, that kind of soul, it might be worth checking out. Next question, an 80s dance floor hit or dance floor anthem, whatever, something like that. But immediately one song immediately came to my head when I saw this question, and I don't know a song that from the time period, at least in my experience, that gets people up and dancing more than this song, and that is Just Can't Get Enough from Depeche Mode, which I think has been used in every single school disco in the 80s, the 90s, and into the 2000s as well. Classic track from them. Big hit from them, and of course everyone knows it, everyone loves it, so had to mention that one, of course. Next question: which album cover is the most 80s? Out of all the ones I had, the one I could go with the most was Duck Rock by Malcolm McLaren, which of course you've got a lot of 80s references on here. You got the TV on the back, which who didn't have a TV like that back in the 80s? The fashion back then, the knee-high socks, the shorts, which were really high up, graffiti style writing. There is, of course, on the front, you've got the jukebox, what they call radios, headphones there. Yeah, just a very, very 80s cover. For me at least, that's what I think when I go to the 80s. Also vibrant colours as well with that one. So that one, of course, had to get shown. Next question is show your favourite Live Aid artist. And again, I wanted to try and avoid the obvious one of Queen, which would be my favourite in this category. But I went with somebody else this time around, and I picked Elton John. This is his album Don't Shoot Me, I'm Only the Piano Player. One of my favourite albums from him. This has Daniel on it, this has Crocodile Rock on this album as well. Yeah, definitely his Live Aid performance is maybe my second favourite, just behind Queen. So I figured I'd give him some time to shine and show that one. The next question: show a band with big hair, because obviously back in the 80s, one thing that was really, really popular was like big haircuts and massive hairstyles, things like that. And I sort of went through and picked out the first thing I could find. That's Angel with their album Sinful. I mean, yeah, look, they all got big hair there, so decided to show that one. And fun fact, if you're not aware, Angel, their logo is the same one way as it is upside down. Still says Angel, which is pretty interesting there. So yeah, I had to give that one a little show. Next question: your favourite, or I think it's just a cover song, or your favourite cover song. I was going through and I really struggled with this one at first, and then I came across this album and remembered that You Can't Hurry Love from Phil Collins is of course a cover song that he did of the Supremes track, obviously You Can't Hurry Love, which yeah, great album in general, a really good cover in my opinion. I know not everyone will agree, but I like his cover of You Can't Hurry Love. Obviously not as much as the original, but he does a very good version of that. Next question is a forgotten gem. For me, this one I talked about briefly in my last video. Something I kind of also forgot about and rediscovered again, so figured it makes sense to show it. For my answer here is Haircut 100. Now, this album I think peaks at number 2 here in the UK, and I don't think they had much success after this. But this is actually a really good new wave album. You're a fan of 80s new wave, this one might have you might have skipped over this one, or it might have eluded you or something like that, but definitely go back and rediscover this album because it's definitely needed. Next question is who are 2 artists you wish would have worked together? And I personally am just going to say these 2. I know they've never worked together physically, but I do believe they had some mutual friends. in the industry, things like that, is George Michael and Prince. I would have loved to have seen these two working together. Yeah, obviously neither of them with us anymore. Both, I think, died in the same year, which I didn't even intentionally do that, but yeah, just two artists I really like a lot. My favourite albums from both of these artists, I know one is technically a 90s album, but you know, I do wish these two would have worked together at some point in their careers, because that would have been one hell of a collaboration. Next question is, who is one band or artist you could have seen live? And of course, back in the days, I know one member of this band is still releasing music and still touring, but as a band, if they got back together for one final tour, I would love that, and that is Talking Heads. Easily one of my favourite bands, not just from the 80s, but like of all time. And of course, this is their live album Stop Making Sense, which is maybe my favourite live album, and has my favourite version of Psycho Killer on this album as well, which is one of my favourite songs from them. But yeah, if they could come, I know that the other members don't like David Byrne, so it will probably never happen, but I would love to have either gone back in time to see them, or hopefully they can do a reunion tour, set aside their differences and make do a reunion tour, because that would be one really good tour. Next one is a synth pop album. Again, didn't have too much for this one, so although I was trying to avoid the obvious answers for this one, I am going to have to show something that everyone probably knows, and that's a Rhythmix with Sweet Dreams. I made it this. Of course, this album's also from 1983, so I could have used this for that one, but I think it fit the synth pop question a little bit better, so I've gone with that one, which I'm pretty sure most people know this album fairly well, if not just the title track. But yeah, really good album there. Next question is a song released in a movie, or I didn't know if this was if it was recorded specifically for the movie or if it was featured in the movie. But I've gone with, again, I struggled with this question, and I just came up with the first thing that popped into my head. This is James Brown, his album Gravity. The song on here is Living in America, which features in Rocky IV. I believe he performs it in the movie as well. But yeah, just a really good, actually really underrated album from him, in my opinion. Came out 86, so it would have come out the year after Rocky IV came out. But as a big fan of the Rocky franchise, the Rocky movies, it makes sense as well. So yeah, Living in America by James Brown is my answer for that one. The next question, a Hairbrush song, so I'm guessing a song that obviously back in the 80s. You see it a lot in movies and music videos, people singing into a hairbrush. I'm sure we've all done it, or at least with a water bottle or something. But my song of choice for that would be PYT from Michael Jackson's Thriller album. My favourite Michael Jackson song, of course. That again, there's probably a few songs I could have picked, but first one that popped into my head, so I went with it. Next one is an urban album or an urban singer, so this could have been like a hip hop, soul record, house dance, whatever you want to do. I've gone with soul because 80s soul seems to be one of the things I know the best from that time period, and I've picked Evelyn Champagne King with her album Get Loose. One of my favourite albums from that time period. Easily every song on here is a banger, and she had a lot of hits on here. Love Come Down was the big hit for her. I Can't Stand It was another big one. Back to Love is my favourite track on this album, which sadly was never a single, I don't believe. I think that's just an album track, but really, really good stuff here. Again, another one to check out if you're not too familiar with 80s soul and want to get into it. One a must own, or at least one to check out. Next question is one band or artist you would like to make a comeback. Again, there's a couple of answers I could have gone with for this, and I don't even know if these guys are still touring. All the research I could do on these guys said they were still active, so again, don't really know, but they haven't had an album out since 2013, so I'm going off of that. Let's Go West. A personal favourite of mine from the time period. I know I know their first album was really popular. This is their second album from 1987. I don't know if it performed particularly well, but I really liked their first two albums from the time period, and if they made a comeback, that'd be really good for, I'd be all over that. Question 19, so second to last question. What album would you jam in a Walkman? So I'm guessing one album that you'd have on repeat while you're walking around, or whatever you're doing with your Walkman, wherever you're going, whatever you're up to, whether you're on your bike or whatever you end up doing. What's one song you've got constantly in your Walkman? And for me, obviously, I have to go with my favourite 80s album here, which is The Lexicon of Love by ABC. I also could have gone with them for the last question, the Who Would You Like to Make a Comeback, because they've also not had an album out since 2016, where they put out The Lexicon of Love 2. But yeah, this has been my favourite 80s album. It is probably the one I come back to the most. So yeah, that's my answer for that one. The final question is an 80s crush. Now, obviously, I think most people are probably going to show singers or musicians here, but being 80s, I had to pick an actress, and that would be Winona Ryder. For me, honestly, I think she still looks good today. Obviously, she was in Beetlejuice, which is why I'm showing that. But yeah, for me, it'd be Winona Ryder. So, yeah, guys, thanks so much for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed. Sorry this one's dragged on a little bit longer than I would have liked, but thanks for sticking with me if you made it to the end of the video, and I'll see you all again very soon. Bye.